Hello, and welcome to a rather non-standard episode of Hazeltown Story. So, there should have been a episode that should be part of the Home is Where the Heart Is arc. The next episode in that should be, which would have been the first part of our second session. However, due to timing kind of not being in my favor, basically when we were going to record would have been over Thanksgiving, which wasn't kind of feasible. So it turns out that I did not have a session ready to for the next the next time that there would be a Hazeltown story come up. So I get to figure out a kind of a filler episode while I didn't want to just upload nothing because I like keeping it consistent, and so I didn't really know what exactly to write because last time I knew that there was going to be a gap. I kind of wrote a little short story thing. Couldn't really think of a subject, and those things are kind of consuming. And as you can probably tell, this is going to be a little bit of a on the fly episode. I'm probably not going to do a whole lot of editing to this. Not that I do a whole lot of editing to begin with, but this is going to be a rather off the cuff episode. And what I'd rather do instead of kind of writing something that, just kind of writing some prose or something, I'm going to actually do a little bit of on the fly writing. And the way that I'm going to do this is I recently acquired, if you watch my live streams, this being Lola Puzzle's live streams, I have recently acquired something called a special set, or not a special set, but I essentially bought a stack of cards that were they're called table topics. What they're essentially made to do is they're supposed to be for parties or company kind of, icebreakers and the kind of get to know each other kind of questions. That it's a huge stack of them, and they're just kind of small questions that you ask a group of people, and they all answer, and they all try to get together. And what I have on my streams is I have a redeem that if you use your channel points, which you get by kind of just watching, you can ask one of the Hazeltown crew or me a question. Which I'll basically just draw a card and I'll answer the question. Or I'll answer it for whoever gets drawn for. So what I'm going to do this episode is I have drawn 5. I drew 5 cards from the deck. And what we're going to do is I'm going to answer these 5 questions as the main 7. That main 7 being Rhapsody, Radio, Lomi, Bibli, Lila, Theron, and Cass. So I'll answer all of these questions for their stead. What kind of questions I'll get, I actually don't know because I haven't looked through the entire deck because I don't want to, it kind of spoils the surprise. The one thing I warn you is that, or at least one thing I might have to redraw, is the fact that these these questions seem to be kind of American-centric, which none of the main 7 are American, which kind of throws that off a little bit. Also, I don't know how long this is going to take. I just did 5 as kind of a, just a round number because I'm answering for 7 times. If this is kind of short, I'll draw more. So, yeah. So that's what we're doing. And I guess I might as well just kind of go ahead and start. So first card. What's the worst job you've ever had? This is going to be interesting. So, let's do Rhapsody. Worst job that she's ever had. Let's see. If I think about her life, she mostly, when she was at Heaven's Hearth, mostly was a student. So maybe she did some sort of, like a retail job, although I would say probably the worst job she had was, as part of her backstory, she had, I don't even know if job is the best thing, but if I've listened to kind of the backstory episodes, you'll know that Heaven's Hearth, which is where Lomi and Rhapsody are from, are kind of in the middle of a civil war, which is why they left the country to go to Seedbear and live in Hazeltown. And her job, one of the things that she did there, which is oddly enough, or not oddly enough, but that's where she, learned how to, be stealthy and use a handgun real well, is that she was what they kind of considered as couriers, to kind of go throughout the city that she, Greyhaven, where she was kind of attending college to kind of be a audiomancer. She would kind of help get things throughout the city, like supplies and all sorts. And as part of that thing, sometimes you might run into maybe an enemy faction, and might kind of, might get a little hairy there. Which I would say that's pretty. That is not a great job if your life's on the line occasionally. So for Rhapsody, I would say that. For Radia, she seems like someone who, especially her father, as part of her backstory, her father runs a large kind of an electronics store in Lagos, Nigeria. And I would imagine that she would have worked there as kind of growing up, like when she was like older teens. And that's probably one of her worst jobs, working there as like a clerk or something. So that's probably that. Lomi kind of spent most of his life being, right now, kind of trained to be an animancer. And I'd say worst job he's had right now is probably in story. He's actually in residency right now to get his full doctor, like to be registered as a doctor in Seedbear. He's currently undergoing residency in a very busy part of the city, or at a hospital in a very busy part of the city, and it's very taxing. So I'd imagine that would be it's a pretty taxing job, worthwhile job, but a very taxing one nonetheless. And that's kind of mostly what he's been doing. He's kind of I kind of feel like in his story, or like his background, is that he comes from a long line of animancers, like his father was and his grandfather was, so, which is why he became an animancer, and he just happens to be really good at it. So that's kind of been his one track in life, is just become an animancer, be a doctor. Bibli, I don't think I can answer this question for her, because that is kind of part of her backstory, is that she doesn't quite know what her thing is. So I'd imagine that in her past life, no one knows what exactly she was, including her. So I'm going to say, that is not applicable for her. Lila, same kind of story as Radia, actually, is that her father, kind of as part of his trade, ran a kind of a curio and antiques store in Dublin, because she is from Ireland. And I guess that would also make sense for her to kind of occasionally have worked there. She also seems like she also might have, you know what? Actually, what would be good for her is during her college days, when she was in Moonbeacon, maybe being a bartender. She seems like someone who would know how to be a bartender. So I'm going to say that's probably her worst, is, probably when she was in, college. This is kind of pseudo the 70s, so drinking ages would be 18. Also, it's not America, so it's 18 probably anyway. Her being a bartender makes kind of sense. And, she has kind of the personality that would kind of help for that. So I think that would be good for her. Cass is another situation where his backstory is kind of not exactly known. Right now, he's doing trade as an electrician, which kind of doing odd jobs in the city with his crew. And I think that technically, since that's the only one he can remember, that's probably the worst job he's ever had, is the only one he can remember. And then, well, also I skipped Theron. Theron, his probably worst job is probably, you would say, being essentially a study assistant for a university at Castle Rock Republic, where he came from, one of the largest universities. I haven't quite gotten his backstory yet, so I don't know what exactly to name it. But essentially, he spent a majority of his life kind of working as a researcher at this university, just kind of doing nothing but that. So that probably is the worst job for him, just kind of being cooped up for a lot of his life, doing, stuff like that. So there's, what is the worst job you've ever had for the main 7? There's one card down. Next card. Is it more essential to develop beliefs or gain knowledge? Let's see, for Rhapsody. Is it more essential to develop beliefs or gain knowledge? In her case, as audiomancy, that I feel is very drawn heavily from, emotion. It's kind of the ability to place, it's very artistic kind of feel, like kind of putting passion into energy. And I feel like as part of that, also Rhapsody and Lomi, as part of their background, belong to a religion. Whether or not how religious they are, I'm not 100% certain. They definitely have aspects of there. It's definitely more than half, I would say. So a lot of her kind of being is to kind of take in, this is a weird question for her, because it is to gain knowledge of how to be a better musician, and how to draw from inner energy to produce to produce better magics, which can be used as sort of a medical kind of thing, as very calming. It's very kind of affecting emotions and all that. So although gaining knowledge, especially if you think about like histories and all that, knowledge and especially storytelling of various cultures, that's actually, gaining that knowledge is very deep in art. So I'm going to say for Rhapsody, it's both emotion and how to encapsulate your emotions to kind of be productive and to like make that your kind of drawing, like your focus and energy. That I feel is more important to her, or that is very important to her. But knowledge of like learning how cultures kind of did stuff and kind of how they kind of incorporated that into music, that's also important. So for her, it's both. Radio. Her background also is her background is rather technological. I feel like for her, knowledge is more important than beliefs. I don't like her belief system. I'm not 100% certain on. I don't know what exactly I'd imagine that she's probably someone who is not too terribly involved in politics. She knows quite a bit. But she'd have like kind of very human, she's not, I would not say she is very politically motivated into the sense of like the more nitty gritty of politics of like, capitalism and socialism and those kind of isms. She's probably not super knowledgeable. Like she knows of them, but probably is not super into them. Like she's not, she would like advocate for more human rights things than actual like advocating for a particular economic system, for example. Very much into, better human rights. And that part of it would be where she's interested, but she'd have it. But she's very much a knowledge person, spending a lot of time doing, very into trivia Spends a lot of time on the whatever the equivalent of the internet is, probably BBSs. So knowledge is probably very important to Radia. For Lomi, especially as someone whose job it is to animancy, I kind of feel like that's almost kind of like audio, like how the audiomancy works. It's very much inner emotion. That's kind of what can draw. Like, I kind of feel animancy is like very much being in tune with like the human, like not the human condition, but the human like psyche and all that. So beliefs and kind of emotion are very important to Lomi. So, and I feel like he's very much kind of someone who is into discipline and into like keeping your own personal order and all that, and being like very much a disciplined kind of guy. And like the fact that everything kind of goes from personal beliefs. So beliefs are, I would say, very important to Lomi. So Bibli, beliefs or knowledge for her? I would say for knowledge, or for beliefs or knowledge. Bibli is someone who is essentially like, she has a lot of knowledge. As part of her thing, she is like very, like she has. Yeah, I kind of feel like she has like an encyclopedia at her fingertips at all times. So she is very knowledgeable. I think what might be more interesting for her is how people kind of interpret that knowledge and how they use it. And what exactly, it's one thing to kind of have knowledge, it's another thing to use it. So I feel like in that case, since she already has the entirety of knowledge at the fingertips, it's more of what you use with it. That's probably more important to her, which I don't know if that really answers the question, but I feel like that would be something that is important for her. Lila, I mean, she's a museum curator by trade, very much into history, so knowledge is incredibly important to her. I do feel like of the main seven, she might probably be the more, outside of maybe like Lomi and Theron. I feel like she's the one that might have the most pulse in terms of like political beliefs. But personal beliefs, I feel like it would not be I feel like her, in terms of beliefs, I feel like, well, and this is something that I need to be, me personally, Lolo, need to be kind of cautious for, is that as part of her backstory, if you think about the 70s in Ireland and Northern Ireland, that's right when the Trouble started. So in terms of beliefs, I feel like that might affect what she feels about how beliefs kind of motivate people and how that might be sour. Also, I know that she is, because her father, I know, I kind of have him as someone who's Catholic, and her mother was originally from India and probably Hindu. So she grew up in a mixed religion household. I don't fully know what I kind of feel like in her backstory that it was something that it was kind of split between her and her her mother and father, that they kind of didn't want to force one particular religion onto their children, so they kind of let them decide. And I feel like Lila has incredible lapsed Catholic energy, so I feel like knowledge is probably more important to her, and that she might have a somewhat tainted view of beliefs, and like how important they are to people. So that's Lila. Again, I don't know if that answers the question, but that's what your thoughts are. Theron, I feel like he's more. Theron's personality, I'm still not 100% certain of, but I do know that he is rather knowledgeable, spending a whole lot of time as a researcher. I feel like getting knowledge is kind of what gets him. Like, that's why he did a whole lot. Like, that's kind of his motivation for doing the stuff that for Team Reading Rainbow, or the research team Reading Rainbow, like, is to just figure out what is going on with how can they scry, like, what can they scry. So I feel like knowledge is an incredible motivating factor for Theron. There's that. For Cass. Cass is kind of a head empty kind of person. Not to say that he's dumb, or like that he's kind of like that he's not capable. He is someone who, like, he doesn't know a whole lot of like he's missing a large part of his memory, and just kind of a lot of part of that, like, he is very much extreme himbo energy, kind of, although that's not quite the same as what I was going for. But yeah, he is kind of someone who, when it comes to exact knowledge, he's kind of missing. So he's living his life without a whole lot of knowledge. So I feel like belief is very important to him, and that it's what he kind of does with what life you have. I feel like, especially him kind of not even knowing if the body that he has is the one that he originally started with. And his kind of struggles with his own body are kind of, and what he believes are kind of a big part of him. So I feel like beliefs are actually very important to Cass rather than knowledge, because he's living a perfectly good life without knowledge. So it's more of what you do with that life that's more important to him. So, yep, there is that. So that is the second card. It looks like we're at 21 minutes so far, which without me truncating silence. So I think we're probably going to be good at 5. So, next question. Would you rather live by the beach or in the mountains? For Rhapsody, she lived in the mountains. Heaven's Hearth, especially, so the two planets aren't kind of exact in terms of geography, but they're kind of sort of similar. So where Heaven's Hearth is located on, if you think about laying the map of like our world versus that planet of the planet Remus, Heaven's Hearth is kind of situated where Russia right now is, and especially in the top right portion of Russia. If you're thinking about, like, I would say this is probably more of a barocentric viewpoint, but like the top right where you have, Russia and China and Tibet, like that kind of portion of Asia. And it's very mountainous. So Rhapsody, I'm like, while that's just what she's used to. So I feel like she kind of is somewhat acclimated to colder weather and just kind of more mountainous region. I feel like she would be someone who would like to visit the beach, but not like someone who would like to vacation to someplace like just to give like an our world example, someplace like Hawaii, Mexico. She would like to visit places like that, but she would not like to live there because it's not what she very much likes the colder weather. So I feel like she would appreciate living in the mountains more than by the mountains or by the beach. Radia is probably the exact opposite of that. Lagos, Nigeria, if I remember correctly, is I believe that it's by like it's on the coast of the I keep on forgetting. I believe it's west coast of Africa and Nigeria. So she would probably be pretty similar or pretty close to beaches, unless I completely screwed this up. I am actually going to look this up right now so I don't make an ass of myself. Yes, Lagos is directly on, if this map's to be believed, it is directly on the coast. So she is very much, I imagine she would be very much accustomed to the beach. And actually, I wonder. Yes, Lagos, Nigeria, beach resorts. So yes, I would imagine she would be the exact opposite situation of Radia, where she's interested by the cold, although she is more acclimated to hotter temperatures. So I would imagine that she would want to live by the beach rather than in the mountains, just because that's what she's used to. Lomi is pretty much the exact same thing as Rhapsody. So he would rather live on the mountains than the beach. Basically the exact same answer as Rhapsody. Bibli. To her, it's kind of... I am not 100% certain where she would rather live. As part of her... I don't have... kind of as a writing thing, I actually try and not think a whole lot about what Bibli's background specifically is. Just maybe some light things that happened. One thing I did kind of hone down on is that she actually likely, based on things you would determine by her sensibility, or not sensibilities, but her like dialect and how her way of talking, and just what languages she knows, I kind of feel like she would be from Mexico. So the region of Mexico, it's slightly different than, our actual world of Mexico in terms of culture. But geography wise, there's still like, you had both I'm bad at geography, but if I remember correctly, I believe Mexico does have both mountains and beaches. So I kind of feel like she would not be, especially since she's a ghost right now. I don't know exactly what sensory perception she has. So I don't know if it even matters to her. She just kind of wants to be where she wants to be, is kind of the best answer I have to that. So, that'd be for Bibli. Lila. Lila, I would imagine, I don't think that, like, I feel culturally, or like, I feel like, for her, I think that, it depends upon where, let's see. I'm just trying to think, because she is someone who likes to go like she likes to go visit different places. So she's not 100. I would say from a visitation point, she would be fine with both. If she had to live in one or the other, I personally think she would like the beach more. She is someone who probably likes the sun a little bit more, and just there's more things she could do entertainment-wise at the beach than the mountains. So I feel like she would prefer the beach. Theron, kind of similar to Rhapsody and Lomi, but not in the same situation. I feel like he also would not, like, he is familiar with the mountains. However, the way that he lived and the fact that he doesn't have a whole lot of, not fondness, but like he doesn't have a lot of nostalgia for his home. So I feel like, especially getting out into living in the Signwald and Seedbearer, is him getting out of his shell. So I feel like him wanting to live by the beach would make more sense, because it's him trying to get to a situation or a place where he hasn't lived there for, or has lived by the beach yet. So I feel like by the beach would be more for him. And then for Cass, probably similar to Lila. Don't exactly know 100%. Naturally, kind of similar to where Bibli is. I'm not 100% certain of where he originally came from. I am likely thinking that he came from, if I actually can't remember how much of the documentation I have in terms of geography of the world there is, but I imagine that he is from a region that is either referred to as prosperity or the region that's referred to as life's canopy, which are neither beachy or mountainy. So both of them are different for him. I feel like he he would not care just as long as it's a place that he can, find people that he enjoys being around. So that's kind of he wouldn't care about the climate. He just wants to have, camaraderie, so to speak. So that's that question. So question number 4, or card number 4. If you live to be 100, would you rather have a sharp mind or a fit body? So Rhapsody, let's see for Rhapsody. I feel like she would rather appreciate a sharp mind, especially one that, or at least she would like to be able to continue to play music as long as she lives. So I think that's more important too, which I gather would be sharp mind more over than fit body. From a body's perspective, her body is like she's healthy, but I feel like since she's a little this kind of gets to the kind of more body acceptance stuff, especially she knows that, especially since she's planning on living a long happy life with Lomi, and Lomi I feel has been very clear that he does not care about what she looks like, her body. So I don't feel like the body is really important to her, because she knows that doesn't matter to the people she cares about. So I would say sharp mind for Rhapsody. Radia, her if it comes to fit body, she's kind of as part of her thing is she is still trying to learn about and trying to gain acceptance of her body as her new kind of form, her new kind of hybrid Sphinx form, rather than her original human form. So I feel like she's starting to grow appreciative of her current body, which isn't fit, to say the least. Not as a bad thing, but I don't think you could really say that she is toned, to say the least. So sharp mind would absolutely be important to Radio. Skin, she's someone who is into knowledge. She originally was trained as a researcher. So, yeah, I feel like sharp mind would be that. And I feel like that's going to be a pretty consistent theme throughout the characters. Lomi. Again, not exactly the fittest of the bunch, although he is quite stocky. I feel like, especially as part of his backstory, he was originally a soldier, fighting for the kind of protecting the home, like the original home government of Heaven's Hearth. And part of his journey, or his life journey, is him kind of abandoning that past and trying to really focus on building, or really kind of becoming a doctor, really becoming a kind of a builder. And I think that his personal fitness, at least in terms of the quote unquote fit body, is not as important to him as a sharp mind, because he can do more things with a sharp mind than he can with a fit body. So there's Lomi. Bibli, sharp mind, she's a ghost. Doesn't care about the body. So that's that. Lila. I think she would appreciate a fit body more than a sharp mind. I think that she would have some personal benefit from a fit body. Like, I think that in one part of her brain that she wants a fit body, but she knows probably that a sharp mind is probably going to get her more benefits in the long run. Although body image to her is pretty important. So I would say a fit body is also not exactly the worst thing to have for her. Theron, similar case to a lot of other people. He ain't exactly the fittest one in the bunch. So a sharp mind is very much more important to him. and he doesn't have any use for a fit body anyway, because a lot of the stuff he does is researcher, and he's not exactly super active. So sharp mind is much more important to him. Cass, on the other hand, I do feel like a fit body would be more important to him because he does a lot of physical stuff. Physicality is kind of what he's kind of best at. His mind, like he has very specific knowledge, but again, he's kind of like when it comes to like remembering certain things and like having like a memory of like history and how to do certain things. Some of it's like not just gone. So I feel like he'd get more use out of a fit body than a sharp mind. So there is question 4. It's the last one. Okay. This one I'm actually going to draw a different one because the card that I got is, if you decide to go on a spiritual journey, where would you go and what would you do? I feel like this one's a little weird because I'm not exactly 100% certain what the scope of this question is. So I'm going to put this to the side. I'm going to draw another card. No, I already pre-drew, so I'm going to draw from the middle. All right, what's this question? I'm going to draw. So what's the biggest lie you told as a child? That's getting a little bit into the nitty gritty that I'm going to save this for later because I feel like this is actually a pretty good format. As I'm doing this, I'm kind of like, oh, this is actually kind of fun. But I'm going to hold on to this one for later because I feel like after we kind of do this a little bit more, I'll have a better answer for that. Let's try this one. Okay, actually, you know what? This is, I think, a good question. Even though I think it's kind of similar to what ones we've already read. Is it important to be more book smart or street smart? Now, for Rhapsody, I am trying to think about what her, like, in terms of, like, school, like, her book smart versus... I feel like Rhapsody is a lot more street smart than she is book smart. And I don't think she's actually bad at being book smart. I think she is very much more reading people and just kind of getting more of the situation, kind of having her head on a swivel. I feel like for Rhapsody, it is much more important to be street smart as it gets you a little bit more ahead in terms of like dealing with other people. And I feel like she places a lot more important on being, you know, being more human in like getting to know more people and just kind of more of a survival instinct than it is to be book smart. Radia. I feel like she is very book smart. When it comes to street smart, I feel like Radia is someone who has a lot of street smart problems. That I feel like she probably is more book smart than street smart, and I feel like she would appreciate. She is someone that I feel like she can get use book smarts to her advantage somehow. In that, I feel like she is someone who would like being more book smart than street smart, and I feel like she would get more use out of that. Definitely puts a importance on both, but yeah, I feel like she would probably want to be more book smart. Lomi, I feel like for him that street smarts would be more important, because I would bet that he is the kind of person that would say that as long as you can convince someone, like street smarts in the terms of like being people person and trying to get stuff out of people and be more personable, that he would feel that you can get any sort of book information if you're personable enough and trying to know how to get the person to do the work for you. That doesn't matter if you know how to do something. Knowing when it's someone else that should do the work and who to get to do it, I feel is more important. Like that is where street smarts being far more important than book smarts are to him, and just being a better person, I feel, is probably that. And I feel like Bibli actually would take the opposite approach than that. That if she knows the right information, that I feel like you can. She is someone who would feel that you can get the information from that. Knowing how to do navigate stuff yourself can also be important. So I feel like she would probably appreciate being more book smart than street smart. But yeah, Bibley's also not exactly the most personable person in the first place, so I feel like she would appreciate being more book smart. Lila, I would definitely say she's book smart because she is a history buff, and I feel like that she feels that with the right bit of knowledge and research that she could figure out the same kind of things you can get from talking to people. So I feel like being book smart would serve you more than being street smart. Theron, I feel like... So Theron is a bit of a case where he is both good at research and someone who is very personable. So I feel like he would place equal importance on both. It is important to both know how to do your own research in that and how to be street smart or book smart, but also person skills are incredibly important on getting by. So I feel like for him, it is equally both. Cass is 100% street smart because that's kind of his thing. He is not book smart at all. He is incredibly street smart, though, which is how he can get by with not being book smart is because he's incredibly street smart. So yeah. That is the end of the fifth question, and I think that's a good enough question and answer period for this first go ahead. Hopefully you all enjoyed that, enjoying my thinking process, and just, I hope you enjoyed this thing. This is a pretty easy kind of sub episode that if I need to do backup, I can easily do that. Because it doesn't take too much time for me. So that'll do it for this. I am planning on having a we are currently planning on having a session shortly. So I do think that the next episode you hear should be a proper Hazeltown story and a continuation of Home is Where the Heart Is. And yeah. So yeah, I think that will be good for this episode. So, hope you enjoyed this little question and answer period. Bye. Thank you for listening to Hazeltown Story. If you would like to get updates on this show and many other shows hosted by me, Lola DePuzlo, you can follow at Hazeltown Story on Twitter. And if you would like to get to know me more from a personal standpoint, you can follow my personal Twitter at Lola DePuzlo. If you would like to watch this be recorded live, you can go to twitch.tv/LoadPuzzle and follow the channel for notifications of when this show, as well as other shows like Retro Rank Rhapsody, are being recorded. If you would like to add this podcast to your podcatcher of choice, you can search for WLDP Hazeltown Radio and find us on most major podcatching search engines. Or you can manually add rss.hazeltown.life to your podcatcher. Thank you for listening, and I hope you come around for the next episode.